everyone. It's Liz from the Barletta team with Ligris, and I'm so excited to have Annelie again from Best of Boston Living in Century 21. Great to see you again.
Same here, same here. And guess what? It is sunshine outside today. I love it. Yay, finally getting some warmer weather away from the cold here.
I love it. I love it. And we are talking about something that I feel like is either not misconception, but just there's so many questions about title
Yeah.
insurance,
Yes,
right?
it is. Definitely. And I know for a fact that a lot of buyers are questioning as they doing mortgages or cash buyers, what is the difference between a lender's title insurance and an owner's title insurance? So I'm going to let you explain this to us.
Okay, so let's start there. So title
Yeah.
insurance, two different kinds. For our buyers who are getting a mortgage, there's the lenders and the owners. The biggest distinction, besides the cost, okay, or like whether the payment is, whether it needs to be paid or not paid, it is whether the policy itself is a curative policy. So let me take a step back. So
Yes.
the lender's title insurance protects who? The lender, okay? The owner's policy protects the owner, so the buyer, the homeowner of the property. The lender's title insurance is not a curative policy, so it doesn't cure issues. It doesn't fix things. It just protects the lender in the event that there's a title issue, that the property would be lost to that title issue, for example. So the property that they have as collateral is no longer the buyers, for example. And so like their protection is in the policy that they get paid the premium, but there's no fixing of anything. Okay.
Okay.
The owner's policy is the one that is curative in nature, meaning if there's a title issue that is discovered, that owner's policy will go to bat for you as a homeowner, protect you in the event that they have to go to court, they'll hire counsel. In the event, again, you get to a point where the title to the property is lost for one reason or the other, you have your premium of your purchase price that is covered. Okay, so the biggest distinction, I think the biggest misconception is, well, the lender has a policy, so if there's an issue, the bank's going to fix it, which is false, because the lender will just wait. If the property gets foreclosed, they'll get their money. It's not curative. It doesn't fix anything. So I think one of the things that people see on their closing disclosure when they first, or their loan estimate, I should say, because it all begins then when they start seeing the numbers, right?
Yeah.
See the numbers and they'll see loan title insurance policy, lender's title, and then owner's title, parentheses, optional. So they say, well, if it's optional, that means I don't have to pay for it. Of course, that's what it means. You do not have to have an owner's policy.
Yeah.
But the lender, they will require one. So off the bat, I always feel like, well, if the lender has something to protect themselves, it's probably very important.
Yeah.
But that's where people get the idea, well, okay, lenders is not optional, owners is optional, but it's a title insurance policy, so they're going to fix it if something happens. They won't. Only if you have an owner's policy will the title company fix or try to fix the issue.
Now, do you see, yeah, it makes sense. So, as obviously if you're doing a mortgage with a bank, you run a title search on a property.
Yeah.
So, and let's say it comes up with a clean title and buyer says, okay, well, it's a clean title. So why should I have to buy an owner's title insurance? Because it already came out clean. So
Totally.
what do you advise them because it's already clean? And how far back do you guys search it?
Right. So this is the thing. I always tell clients, when we are doing our research of title, if it's something that we missed, that's malpractice. Sue us, right?
Okay.
Because then we messed up. But what the title insurance policy is really there for, things that cannot be discovered through that title examination. So let's say we did everything right.
Yeah.
You searched the title, everything looked good and everything looked clean. Well, the title policy covers things that can't be known. So for example, when we're doing our title research, we're looking at black and white pieces of paper that are recorded at the Registry of Deeds. I can't see the intention of the person who signed the document. I don't know if they had capacity, meaning they actually had their wits with them and are able to actually sign something knowingly. I don't know any of that. Those are things, for example, that are covered by your title policy. If it's found later that an heir knocks on your door one day and says, hey, I was a missing heir on the probate of my father who sold this or whose estate sold the property. My name was left off. How would we know that? It's impossible for me as the closing attorney and the person who's certifying title to know that information. So the title policy is what will cover you in those instances. I always have like a little horror story. It's my horror story. I always do you want to hear
tell us stories, because that's what people want to know, because you kind of got into, which is an important thing for buyers to know, is, like you said, what does it cover, right? Yeah. So like you just said, somebody passed away and somebody comes knocking on your door. So give us an example in a story.
Yeah, so this actually happened. I always like, it stinks that it happened because it was a lot of work to fix. But at the same time, I love having like a real world example that can kind of put teeth to the situation. So I represented a seller who was selling her Somerville home after living there for 30 years. Okay, elderly, wonderful lady. Super excited to retire and move to Florida, right?
Yeah.
Somerville, so obviously cash buyer, like no contingencies, like slam dunk sale. So she goes under agreement for a property in Florida. Similarly, cash sale, no contingencies. Title comes back. Now, obviously, I haven't been practicing law for 30 years, so I didn't represent her when she bought the place, okay? She bought it, and again, it was like so at that time, because it was like maybe 5 to 8 years ago, I can't remember exactly, but it was in the 70s, 80s when she bought it, right?
Okay.
So what happened, we found out from the buyer's attorney who did their title search, that we have a big issue. And that issue is that she only owned, for all those 30 years, half of the house. She only had a half interest in that home. And the issue was that when the prior owner, it was a family, they had so it was a father, they had sons, there was a daughter, there was a trust, deeds back and forth. Okay. And sometimes when people transfer title after they own the property, maybe they do it for estate planning purposes, so they put it in a trust. Or maybe they're trying to refinance and get money out, so they're adding a family member. And then it goes back and forth, right? Well, the person who did that back and forth, the attorney who helped them, was probably not doing title searches every time because it was just a family deal. So they're just going to go back and forth. Well, the language that was added to convey the property on one of those deeds ended up dropping half of the interest. So what they conveyed, that particular seller conveyed to my client when she bought it, was only half of the house. So all these years, she's only actually a 50% interest holder. So number one, we all freak out because we're like, oh my gosh, first of all, we have to find this person. Who is
owns the other half of the house?
Right. Who is this person and what money are they going to want? Right. Yeah. Imagine when she bought it for 100-something thousand, selling it now 30 years later in Somerville for $1 million+ thousand.
Yeah.
What are they going to want?
Half.
So title insurance would have been like a blessing in this situation because we would have been able to probably still close on time. The title insurance company would have been hired to do stuff in the background to find these people. If they needed to pay them to convey title, that would have all happened to make sure my client had proper title. Okay, so title insurance would have been amazing. She didn't have title insurance. So what happens? Now, again, remember, she was under a contract in Florida. There's no way in the time period that we were supposed to have closed, we were able to fix this issue. So she lost her deposit in Florida, lost that house. Okay.
Wow. Sucks, so she lost all of her due diligence and everything. Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, now that sucks. That's one issue. The second issue is, how the hell are we going to find these people 30 years later?
Yep.
So thankfully, they actually had a very unique last name. And so we were able to find family. So the dad was deceased. We found the obituary, and it named the family members, like the children,
Yeah.
right? Who are also at that point like retirement age. So it was trying to find them. I believe one of the kids was deceased as well. There was one in California, one in Connecticut, I think one in Florida, and one in Massachusetts is what my memory recalls me to think. We were able, thankfully too, and I have this memory, but I don't know if it's my brain just adding this to the story because it's good. But my Nick Ligris, obviously Ligris is Greek. So I believe one of the family members was very old school, didn't speak much English, and I feel like Nick maybe had a conversation with them too to kind of make them feel comfortable, like this is actually something we need. It's been so many years. I feel like I may have added that to the story, but it's good anyway. But long story short, we were able to get all the people that we needed to sign a deed, transferring their interest in the property to my client. So we were able to finally sell that property, and not one of them asked for money. Not one.
And now that's obviously not a common situation.
No.
It could go the opposite.
Oh, they could have literally, I mean,
yeah,
for half of what she
half
was
of the
selling for.
proceeds. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that brings you to the next question, obviously, which is for people that don't have a title insurance, what could possibly happen? And you just kind of gave us a story of worst case scenario.
So deposit law, and again, a lot of the stuff that the title insurance policy will cover ends up, it may not be that the title issue is so crazy like this one, but it could be that it's just not going to happen. Like the fixing of it will not happen before your closing that you've already scheduled. And so even just that, the fact that it's going to cover a policy and maybe allow the buyer's side to feel comfortable to still close on time and then fix it in the back end, like post-closing, that in and of itself, that time savings and money savings, because time is money. And if you are needing that deal to close because you're buying something else or whatever, that I think in and of itself is so worth it. But yeah, and that's my horror story title issue that I wish they had a title policy, because she would have, been in her home in Florida without that stress. And again, she was elderly. Like this was so hard for her to understand. How is this possible? How can I not have known and nobody found this issue, So definitely wish she had a policy.
Wish I had policy. So from a legal standpoint of view, so somebody does not have a policy, hypothetically speaking, and you are in this situation, what can they do as far as, if we were to, step back and say, okay, I'm closing on a property. I did not have a title or owner's title insurance. What ways can it go wrong as far as if you're under contract? Like legally, can the buyer walk away? Do you have like a legal right to extend? Like what options does a buyer have that doesn't have it?
Right.
Seller have that doesn't have it.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the purchase and sale agreement, we have that paragraph 10 provision that gives the seller up to 30 days to provide the property in the condition as agreed. And part of that condition is also the legal condition, which is the clear marketable title. So if the title issue is discovered and it can't be satisfied by closing, then you have that automatic 30 days or the lesser of 30. And when the buyer's rate expires, if that was added to the P&S, which typically, if you have a buyer attorney, they're going to add that language. So you'll automatically have a little bit of wiggle room. But again, if your buyer's rate expires the next day, like you don't have much time to work.
Yeah.
And
like you said too, nobody will know what type of defects might pop up during the title or down the road, like you said. So worst case scenario, you could lose the transaction, the deal, and start all over for a simple thing as buying an owner's title insurance, which is definitely worth it.
And also one of the things that I think is a misconception too is the cost Since it has insurance, obviously it is an insurance policy. So a lot of people think of their homeowners, which has a annual cost.
Yep.
But the great thing about the owner's title policy is that you pay for it once when you purchase the home, and you have it the entire time that you own the home. So again, like this client of mine, had she purchased it 30 years before, that one premium she paid for back then would have covered this issue 30 years later. So definitely something to, and again, I'm a risk averse person as a lawyer, and I just feel like, you know, it's one of those things like insurance. Nobody wants to pay for insurance, right? Like that sucks to pay. Dental insurance, health insurance, you know, home insurance. Nobody wants to pay it. But then if you don't have it, you really wish you did. So I'm of that mindset, like better be safe than sorry, because you just never know. I could have done my job perfectly, and there's an issue that I could not have seen because I had no way of knowing.
Yeah. So I feel like it's the same thing, almost like a homestead, right? Which is a different subject, but it is a one-time policy and it stays with you for the length of your ownership.
Yep.
It's the best money you can ever spend.
Totally.
It is not like a car insurance or, you know, a home insurance, like a, you know, on your property that is annual renewals and monthly costs. It is a one-time fee. You know, don't sweat it, pay it, and cover yourself, because it could end up really ugly in the end.
Absolutely. And also, when you purchase along with your loan policy at closing, you're getting a better rate. They call it a simultaneous issue discount, meaning the two policies simultaneously purchased together, you get a discounted rate. So again, it's the best rate that you can get when you purchase the home. And again, you have it one time. You will have to pay for lender's title insurance every time you get a new loan. So like if you refinance, that loan policy goes to the new lender, right? So that type of title insurance you pay for every time you refinance if you were, or get a loan. But the owners, it stays with you.
Yeah. And again, that lender's title only goes for people that does mortgages. If you're a cash buyer, the only focus you need to be on is the owner's title insurance. Yeah.
And for the first-time home buyers out there, most title insurance companies just let them know that you're a first-time home buyer, let your attorney know, and they'll be able to usually get a discount on the owner's policy premium for first-time home buyers.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, this is so helpful. Thank you so much. I know that this is a big misconception between buyers and sellers out there. And you explained this perfectly. So I appreciate all the answers and information you're giving us.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And if you have any other questions about title, I could talk about it all day. Let me know, reach out to me, send me a DM, and I look forward to our next conversation, Annelie.
Sounds great. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thanks. Bye.